Hey everyone, Vazzy back here, and today we have received the final position in the week-long reveal of ratings for NHL 24. EA here just a couple minutes ago did reveal the top 10 centers for NHL 24, so let's go in and take a look at them and see what I think of these ratings. So starting off at number 10 here today, we have from the Buffalo Sabres, Tage Thompson. I think we all know how just incredible of a year Tage had this past year. Putting up career highs, goals, assists, points, and everything. Absolutely incredible player. It's absolutely huge as well. I think a 91 might be a touch high at this point. Just looking at that 3-year scale that I try and judge players on as much as possible. Looking at his stats, he's had 2 really good years. The 3rd year obviously wasn't great there. So I probably have him at a 90 more. Still an absolutely elite centerman in this league, not taking anything away from him. But I would probably have him at a 90 in my roster. I guess we'll have to see when the game releases though. And then moving on to number 9 here on EA's list, we have from the New Jersey Devils, Jack Hughes. And Hughes he's in a similar position here to Tage Thompson. Absolutely incredible player, really had a great breakout year last year. It just really, when looking at that 3-year scale, is he really deserving of a 91 after 2 pretty good years? You can argue it for sure. I think I probably again have him closer to the 90. 91 obviously isn't too bad at all from EA, so yeah, it's not bad overall. And then moving on to number 8 here on EA's list, we have Brayden Point, who EA has given a 92 overall for this year's game. I think that's just about right for Point. Again, he had an absolutely incredible year this last year. I think he put up, like 50 goals or something? Just absolutely insane. One of the fastest players in the whole entire league. And I didn't show it here today, but he is on the top 10 fastest skaters, which was good to see. So yeah, I think a 92 overall is pretty good for Brayden Point. And up next here at number 7, we have from the Florida Panthers, Alexander Barkov, who has also received a 92 overall rating heading into this year's game. I think overall that's pretty fair for Barkov, obviously an absolutely elite defensive and offensive player, just so good at each end of the ice. I think you could maybe argue for even a 93, but I think a 92 overall is pretty fair. And moving on to number 6 here on today's list, we have from the Vancouver Canucks, Elias Pettersson, who has received a 92 overall rating for this year's game. Obviously, again, this year, just like a couple other guys on this list, really incredible breakout year. Had, I believe, over 100 points. Just absolutely phenomenal for the Canucks this past year. I think, yeah, 92 is pretty fair for him. I think you could probably argue anywhere from a 90 to a 92, just looking at past years and comparing it over that 3-year cycle. But yeah, I have no issues with a 92 overall for him, for sure. And moving into the top 5 for today's list here. One I'm sure a lot of you here have been waiting to see where they kind of ended up on the top 10 list, and that is Austin Matthews from the Toronto Maple Leafs. He this year has received a 93 overall rating for this year's game. And for Matthews, I think that's totally, completely fair. And just, yeah, like looking back to my video when I was predicting the top 15 players or whatever, I think I had Matthews at a 93 overall. So I have no issues with this rating from EA. And then moving on to number 4 for this top 10 list, we have from the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby. This one might be a little bit controversial. I think this is more of a legacy rating for Crosby. I don't want to take anything away from him. Absolutely phenomenal player. Has been throughout his entire career. But I don't think that's Sid anymore. I think over the past few years, you have kind of seen that he has kind of caught up with his age just a little bit. Like, he hasn't fallen off a cliff or anything, but I don't think he's a 93 in that regard either. I probably have him in that 90 to 91 overall range, which again, it's not too far off from what EA has him at, but I do think that is a little bit of an overrating for Sid. And now after Sid, moving into the big top 3 here, we're kicking things off at number 3, Nathan MacKinnon, who has received a 95 overall rating. I think that's pretty fair for MacKinnon, at least having him on the list number 3, just behind the next 2 guys that we'll be talking about shortly. But yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think I'd have him and actually the number 2 guy here at a 94 overall, but you know, as long as they're equal in rating, I don't have much of an issue with that at all. And now moving on to our second highest rated player here on today's list, we have from the Edmonton Oilers, Leon Draisaitl. He, just like MacKinnon, has received a 95 overall rating, which I don't really have an issue with. He's obviously elite. A lot of people maybe say playing with McDavid, he's getting those extra chances, but he just in his own regard is that absolutely elite player with McDavid or without. Again, 95, yeah, it's probably pretty fair. Like I just said, I'd probably have him and McKinnon both 94s, but, you know, it's not too bad, just being a point off. And then moving on to number 1 for today's list, and it's no real surprise, it is Connor McDavid. McDavid in this year's game has received a 97 overall rating. It's tough with McDavid and being 97 overall, because obviously you really want to kind of make him that 99 overall, but those defensive stats do hold him back. I heard Toogie talking just about the old rating system and how it kind of was more based on player type. That would be so awesome if they could bring something like that back. Then you could have McDavid at that 98, 99 overall, which he really should be. But yeah, as long as he's the number 1 player overall in the game, 97 isn't too bad for me. I'll probably have him at a 98 in my roster, but you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. And that's going to do it for today's video, going over the top 10 centers headed into NHL 24. I'm not sure whatever ratings EA is planning on revealing over maybe later today or going into Friday here. I may or may not cover them. I don't know. I was just going to do the top 10 at every position, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, let me know, what did you guys think of the top 10 centers in the comments down below, and I will see you all in the next video.